Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to have all of you here, this beautiful university. On behalf of the Vice Chancellor, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you. Today is a very important day for the Faculty of Accounting and Finance. Running for an office is not a cheap thing. Very expensive to run for an office in our country today. We are aware of funds, money that are paid for recruit staff, and also offices and transportations, accommodations, and sometimes when we have our political parties visiting the various constituencies. I think Ghana is about 270, 75 or so. When we have these leaders visiting these places, they can speak all the English. And when they are done, they will ask them, "Nah, the crowd is saying." All right. So we are here to talk about this important issue today, affecting our economy and our nation as well. I must say, before the establishment of our fourth republic, the country was characterized or marked with a lot of instability, military rule, and issues about political financing was not an issue for discussion. After the adoption of the 1992 Constitution, it became an issue. We entered into another era in our democratic process and processes. Issues about political financing wasn't an issue. Then in 2000, early 2000, when we had a lot of changes in our political reforms, then attention and the concerns about uses of funds and the source of funding became a major issue for discussion. Fast forward, we entered as a country, the whole world, financial meltdown. So the sources of funding from opaque and potential corrupt source of funding became an issue for us to discuss. Today we are here, a platform to discuss all these financial issues. How do we envisage our country in the years ahead of us to have funds coming from illegal sources? We have an issue. This afternoon we are here to have a dialogue. We are taking our political colors out today, and we focus on major issues affecting our country. So on behalf of the faculty, I want to welcome all of you, but I must also say and thank the faculty, the team that put this program together. The FAF Innovate Project is a team committed in ensuring innovations in our country. We want to say thank you for your support in putting this program together. And lastly, I want to thank our sponsors, partners, Star Ghana, and Metro TV for coming on board to support this program. I have nothing to say than to say good afternoon. Thank you.
How many of you know who's funding your presidential candidate or member of parliament? What's that person's interest? So we ask, do you know who's funding that person who wants to lead you? And I'm sure there are many of you who've heard that viral soundbite that in this country, almost every corruption allegation or case is linked to campaign financing or campaign financiers. So the question is, how do we deal with that? And I'm sure as students, all of you would contribute, so we'll be able to deal with it by the end of the program today. We'll now introduce our chairman for today's event. And our chairman is a distinguished Ghanaian leader renowned for his multifaceted contributions to both politics and enterprise with a steadfast commitment to public service. His journey embodies resilience, innovation, and a deep-rooted dedication to his nation's progress. Now, he was the founding Chief Executive Officer of We Power Authority. He's also been first Vice Chairman of the New Patriotic Party. Let's welcome Fred Owari with a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Mr. The Dean of Faculty of Accounting and Finance, our guest speaker and participants of this dialogue, deans and directors of the faculty, students, our media friends, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here this afternoon having accepted the invitation to chair this event. And therefore, I would like to thank the Faculty of Accounting and Finance of this great university, UPSA, which has earned the reputation of excellence in the short period of time of its existence. To that I say, congratulations, and I do wish you greater success in the years ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, we gathered here to have a dialogue on a critical issue that affects the very foundation of our democracy: political financing. Our hosts have dubbed it Unveiling Transparency, a dialogue on political financing in Ghana. The way in which political campaigns are funded has a profound impact on the integrity of our electoral process and the trust of the public in our elected officials. It is no secret in this country that the influence of money in politics has grown beyond our imaginations in recent times. At the upstream, we have big donors and special interest groups through their patronage exercise undue influence over government appointees. This does not only undermine the principle of one man, one vote, but also raises serious concerns of corruption and undue influence. At the downstream, the new development of voters demanding for incentives before they vote is a worrying development in our politics. It is imperative that we take action to reform our system of political financing to stem this practice. But once again, let me congratulate the faculty for successfully bringing into one room eminent Ghanaians representing diverse shades of political opinions to deliberate on this matter. On the ticket, I'm glad to see representatives of the two major parties. I see my friend Mr. Tokuno here, and my younger brother, Charles Domna. There are, of course, other equally honored. We are equally honored to have the company of other distinguished gentlemen adequately described in the brochure, so there will be no need for me to go through them one by one. But we shall hear from these celebrated politicians, advocates of democracy and good governance, student leaders, civil society organizations, and of course, the premier broadcasting house in Ghana, Joy FM. Worthy of special mention is Dr. Aferi Jan, the former chairman of the Electoral Commission of Ghana. Gentlemen, and I'm addressing the speakers, we must see this dialogue as a matter of national interest, devoid of partisan politics, and therefore must strive to share and implement ideas meant for the good of our country. It is my hope that this dialogue will explore alternative models of financing political campaigns to the extent of reducing the burden placed on political office seekers and minimizing the current excessive influence of money in our politics, as well as ensuring that all voices are heard in the political process. Too often, money speaks louder than the will of the people. The ultimate effect is that the wealthy exercise disproportionate influence over the political process, thereby eroding the trust of the public in our democratic institutions and undermining the principle of fairness and equality. As the chairman of this dialogue, I take the opportunity to welcome all of you to this event. I pray the participants will be brutally frank and speak to the issues which would unveil transparency in political financing. At the end, we must have take-homes or takeaways which would help us to have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I thank UPSA once again in bringing us together and providing us with the opportunity to rise to the challenge of reforming our system of political financing to ensure that our government truly represents the will of the people. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Fedawai, and thank you for accepting to be the chairman for this occasion. And he's talked about the need to have a very frank conversation, because I'm sure there are many of you who are concerned about who's financing your leaders. After all, like I indicated, if you know their interest. But have you also thought about the fact that if nothing is done about what today has been termed as moneycracy by others, someday you would wake up and all of you with brilliant ideas cannot even go to parliament. Because if you do not have money today, you can't pursue your political ambition. I'm not sure that's what we want, right? Is that what we want? I can't hear you. Is that what we want? Great. And on that note, we'll invite our keynote speaker. Mr. Fedawai was talking about the fact that he wishes all of us would have a frank conversation. We should be truthful. I know the keynote speaker will be very frank with all of us. For many of us growing up, we knew him as the electoral commissioner. All of us at the time said, oh, that's the electoral commissioner. That's the electoral commissioner. But of course, he was chairman of the Electoral Commission from 1993 to 2015 when he retired. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Kwejo Afarijan, who is our keynote speaker.
Mr. Chairman, I'm always afraid to offend against the order of precedence. So, with your permission, I will simply say, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as a friend of mine likes to say, no matter who you are, at the end of the day, you are either a gentleman or a lady. Well, I know that nowadays there may be something in between. I must say that I feel most grateful to the faculty of Accounting and Finance of this great university for asking me to give a keynote speech at the inauguration of this series of discussions on political financing in Ghana. I suspect that I have been asked to do so because the financing of Ghana's political parties was precisely one of our primary concerns when I was at the Electoral Commission. In fact, beginning from 1995, in collaboration with the political parties, some development partner organizations, and a local civil society organization, namely CAB Governance Consult, the Electoral Commission made concerted efforts to obtain a suitable form of funding for our political parties. Around the same time, some other organizations, like the Institute for Economic Affairs, were trying to do the same. The fact that we are here today looking into the same subject matter indicates clearly that we did not succeed in our earlier efforts. But I must say that I've never ceased to believe that one day we will have public funding for the political parties. So for the purposes of this project, you may regard me as a fellow traveler. What I want to do is not to roam over the many issues that are connected with the topic of political financing. I know that the panelists will treat those aspects very well. What I want to do, by way of a keynote speech, is to tell the story of our abortive journey to find some form of political funding for our political parties. So I suppose you can understand why I think this effort is commendable. Like previously, I believe that it can promote the consolidation of our democracy. Basically, what I want to do then is to narrate what we try to do in our attempt to find the funding. What did we try to do? How did we go about doing it? And for what reason? As it were, the times have changed. In some cases, very dramatically. But I think that some lessons may be drawn from the field journey which we undertook. Mr. Chairman, I view the formation of the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, the IPAC, in 1994 as the beginning of the journey. The IPAC brought the political parties and the Electoral Commission closer together to discuss issues of mutual interest and concern. In the context of issues of mutual interest and concern, we may summarize the situation as follows. In some countries, a political party is registered in the same way as a company is registered, and a party office is likened to a company office. That is a place or an address where you can receive mail. In contrast, in Ghana, the legal requirement for registering a political party and continuing to be so recognized are more stringent and include the following: having founding members in every district of the country, having offices in 2/3 of all the districts of this country, and an office is deemed to be a physical structure where party activity can be undertaken and is subject to inspection from time to time. From time to time, we go and inspect the offices, so it's not a question of the company address. 3, you must be active all year round by carrying out activities that contribute to shaping the political will of the people. And finally, you must submit an audited account to the Electoral Commission every year. In this context, the EC had two main concerns. One was the inability of the political parties to fulfill the requirements laid down by law. The second had to do with financial accounting. The Electoral Commission was not happy about not knowing how the parties raised their funds, about how much they spent on campaigns, and about the unsatisfactory way in which they presented their accounts. Just quickly, I can't go into details. They will say, oh, Party X, we fielded 200 candidates, and we spent a total of this. So 200, the total divided by 200, that's about the money that we spent. That is most unsatisfactory. You don't just divide the number of candidates, the total amount of money by the number of candidates, and say that you have done proper count. Yeah. So we were very unhappy about the way that they presented here. In response to the concerns of the Electoral Commission, the party said in gist that they did not have the financial resources to be able to fulfill the responsibilities placed on them by law. Based on the discussions at IPAC, we came to understand that as a commission and as political parties, it is in our mutual interest to collaborate to find a stable and, if you like, transparent way of funding our political parties. So that is the beginning of the journey. In 1995, the Friedrich Ebert Foundation assisted the Electoral Commission to hold an international conference to discuss the funding of political parties. The participants were drawn mainly from English-speaking and French-speaking West Africa. But party funding practices of India, Germany, South Africa, and Zimbabwe were explained to the participants. In the end, one of the major recommendations from the conference was that political parties play such important role in a democracy that it is appropriate for the state to support them on a continuing basis. Mr. Chairman, I recall frequent and intensified discussions on party funding at IPAC meetings in 1998. In the same year, the Electoral Commission organized forums at all the regional capitals so that more people could take part in the discussions on party funding. In the end, the dominant view that emerged was that the state should support the political parties to achieve two main purposes: to be able to compete effectively in elections and be able to contribute to shaping the political will of the people on a continuing basis. Based on the IPAC and forum discussions, the Electoral Commission sent a memorandum to the government asking for a review of the political parties law then in force, PNDC Law 281, and recommending state support for the political parties. 2 years later, in enacting a new Political Parties Act 2000, Act 574, the government said that state funding of political parties was desirable, but that the economy as at that time would not support such a venture. Obviously, the government stance deemed our hope for state funding of political parties, but fortunately not for long. When J.A. Kufuor became president, he called for a public debate on the issue of public funding of political parties on two occasions in 2001. The first was when the president of the USA-based International Foundation for Election Systems paid him a courtesy visit in March, and the second was when he addressed his party's Congress at Legon in August. President Kufuor's call rekindled our hope, so the EC again set out to work on party funding. In 2003, the Commission organized 9 broad-based regional forums in July and 1 national forum in Accra in August to give a broad-based number of Ghanaians to an opportunity to be able to speak about party funding. Participants were drawn from the executive, parliament, agencies of the central government, district assemblies, political parties, civil society organizations, the media, traditional authorities, the judiciary, and the security services. Mr. Chairman, I do not want to give the impression that everybody who spoke at the various forums was in favor of the public funding of political parties. There were people who strongly felt that public funding of political parties was a misplaced priority. They argued that political parties in Ghana have shown unwillingness to account to the state or their members for the monies they use for their activities and will not account for any money received from any public fund. Besides, measures related to issues like poverty reduction needed more immediate attention than political parties. And if the issue of governance was the target, they suggested that it would be better to spend money to improve the capacities of the constitutional bodies like the legislature, the judiciary, the electoral commission, and so on. Mr. Chairman, there is no doubt at all that the concerns of the dissenters were legitimate in the sense that they related to matters that required attention. But it needs to be said that political parties too are governance institutions that need capacity building to function properly and efficiently in ways envisaged by the country's constitution. Also, some societal problems, such as poverty alleviation and issues of security, are literally never-ending, ever-persistent problems and are not subject to one-shot or short-term solutions. So as a people, we simply cannot wait until such problems are resolved, if ever, before we tackle problems requiring attention in other sectors of society. Indeed, oftentimes, the resolution of societal problems is achieved through qualitative incremental gains over time. For this purpose, it is prudent to try to resolve problems needing attention concomitantly. And that, in fact, is what effective governments try to do. In any case, following the forums In December 2003, the Electoral Commission sent a memorandum to the government asking for enhanced public support for the political parties. We spoke in terms of enhanced support because a few forms of support already existed, including one, political parties and presidential candidates were entitled to equal access to the state media. Two, the state used to give a few vehicles to the parties in election years. They will give the vehicles to the Electoral Commission and we use a formula to share the incident. Three, donors sometimes provided computers and training to the parties. And lastly, as a form of indirect support, the parties did not pay taxes on their incomes. It is worth noting that equal access to the state media was really the only legally binding form of support to the political parties. The rest could be said to be unreliable sources, as they depended entirely on the intermittent generosity of the government of the day or the donor. That we thought was plainly unsatisfactory. What was required was support for the parties on a regular basis and backed by law. Mr. Chairman, having waited for a long time without a formal reaction from the government on the 2023 memorandum, the EC decided to collaborate with the political parties again to chart a new course, a new way forward. With funding from the Friedrich Ebert Foundation, the Commission held 2 consultative meetings with the leadership of the political parties. At Akosombo in 2007. And the intention was to do a thorough review of the entire issues surrounding the public funding of the parties. The participants, comprising 10 political parties, were determined to produce a set of comprehensive recommendations for the government to consider. And what they did in trying to achieve this can be brought under 5 headings. 1, they need to support the political parties. They have to react. 2, the establishment of a fund. 3, the funding areas. 5, eligibility for accessing the fund. And 5, measures to improve the financial accountability of the political parties. And Mr. Chairman, with the permission, I want to briefly touch on each of these. First, the need to support the political parties. Many reasons were given, but I have grouped them into 5, hopefully without loss of essential import. 1, political parties are the bedrock of Ghana's democracy. So strengthening them is a way of creating a more level playing field in nurturing our democratic culture. 2, the legal responsibilities placed on political parties are deemed to be in the interest of the country. So it is prudent for the state to assist the parties to fulfill them, as they cannot do so satisfactorily on their own. 3, public funding will enhance the ability of the political parties to be more competitive at elections, to do more education of their members, to do research, and to develop policy alternatives for good governance. 4, with funding, becoming a candidate will not depend so much on the ability to pay, thereby preventing a few money bags from taking over a party and dictating the governance of the country. A factor which was stressed by the chairman. And finally, through public funding, the state and the people at large can demand greater probity and accountability from the parties. So these were the reasons that marshaled in support of the demand. The establishment of the fund. The participants opted for the idea of public funding instead of state funding to allow both the state and other stakeholders to contribute to the fund. The fund will be backed by law and known as the Political Party Support Fund. Contributors to the fund will be the state, development partners, corporate bodies, and individuals. The state should provide the seed money and subsequently an annual budgetary allocation. Contributions by companies, by corporate bodies and individuals should be tax exempt. The funding areas. The fund will be divided into 6 components as follows. And we are given percentage representations. The first component is called the equality, the equity or equality principle. It means if you are a registered political party, no matter your size, that amount you will share equally. That is 3% of all the money in the fund. The second component is institutional development, 15%, and that will go towards rent, office equipment for national and for regional and national offices. And staff training. The third component is research and public education was also allocated 15%. And we talk about research, documentation, libraries and facilities, and policy and educational research. I want to give you some education into what they themselves say they're going to use the money for. The fourth was the election campaign cost component. And they allocated 25% of the monies in the fund to that. And this will be used for vehicles, public address equipment, publicity, training of polling agents, and allowances for agents. Then there was a very interesting component, fine, they insisted on it, reward for performance based on the number of members of parliament. That was 10%. And then general fund management, 2%. So they had allocated the percentages so that 5 other key recommendations made about the fund are noteworthy. 1, the election component should accumulate and be disbursed only in the year when the presidential election or parliamentary elections are pending. It means you don't give that money to them every year. You pile the money up until an election is about to be held. Then you use the formula to. 2, 5% of the election component should be set aside as contingency funds to be shared equally between the candidates in the event of a presidential runoff election. Where there is no runoff election, the amount returns to its place in the fund. 3, where political parties form an alliance for purposes of elections, all the parties in alliance should be deemed to have fielded a common presidential candidate or one set of candidates for parliamentary elections. 4, independent presidential or parliamentary candidates should not receive any form of support from the fund. And 5, in every year immediately following the holding of a general election, Parliament could review the threshold, the items for funding, the opportunity, the apportionment of funds, and the disbursement formula. However, any change made in such a review should take effect from the beginning of the life of the next parliament. I hope you get it. Yes. The parliament that reviews it doesn't benefit from it immediately. It begins from the next parliament. Now, the eligibility for accessing the fund. So we've established the fund. It was recognized that it is important to ensure that a party receiving public funding has considerable public support. So it was necessary to set a threshold which a party must achieve before it can access the fund. Such a threshold is usually expressed as a fixed percentage of votes or as a variable quantum of votes, such as the number of votes required to elect one member of parliament. after a lot of thinking, it was decided that the threshold should not be so high that only a few partners could qualify. It's a few political parties could qualify, or so low as to create a free-for-all situation and cause a proliferation of political parties. Eventually, the threshold was set at 1% of the total valid votes cast at a presidential election or parliamentary elections. Some people think that is too low, but of the 10 parties that were present at the meeting, we had used the 1% as the qualifying threshold. Only 4 of the 10 would have qualified to receive public funding on the basis of the 2000 and 2004 elections. Now, a few things about financial accountability. Remember, everybody had said that these political parties are reckless. They will not, they will not account for it. So they had to take note, the parties themselves. They wanted to indicate that they would do. The first was that the fund managers should develop the capacity of the political parties in financial records keeping. Maybe it's difficult for you to appreciate this, but those of us who went around to inspect their offices and ask questions, sometimes you go and how did you arrive at these figures? Nothing. So they wanted to use the fund as a way of helping the political parties to augment their capacity in financial records keeping. They should also establish a monitoring unit to track the expenditures of the political parties and appoint auditors to audit the accounts of the parties on a regular basis. Oh, this is going to be done at the front. The second recommendation was that where practicable, support to political parties should be in kind, and the fund managers should make direct payment to service providers to minimize money being given directly to the parties. And 3, that's the last one, that the law establishing the fund should institute sanctions against the abuse of funds. And the sanctions could include the reduction, suspension, or cancellation of the grant, total exclusion from benefit for a specified period of time, and depending on the nature and severity of the abuse, prosecution. The chairman, at the end of all this Kosan board deliberations, each of the representatives of the political parties signed a statement of approval of the recommendations. The statement also urged the incumbent president to establish a fund before the end of his term of office. The EC put the recommendations and the statement into a memorandum and duly sent it to the President. Mr. Chairman, it is arguable that you can have a durable multi-party democracy without vibrant political parties. And whether you can have vibrant political parties without stable sources of funding. Yet, in spite of all these efforts, to date, we don't have even a semblance of such funding. I do not think that the state of the economy from 2000 till today can be used to explain why we don't have such funding. I believe that part of the reason is that our two main political parties, the NPP and the NDC, do not have principled positions on the issue of public funding of political parties. And I single out the two parties because they are the only two parties that could have given us a law setting up a fund for the political parties. They are the only two parties who have produced presidents. And the role of the president is critical. If the president does not want party funding, you will not have it, because the Constitution says clearly that it's only the president who can introduce a bill in Parliament that requires the spending of public money. So, I'm not saying that every individual in the various parties does not. There may be individuals who want them. But as parties, they don't have the principled position. When they are in government, they don't like party funding. When they are in opposition, they want. See, this vacillation, yes. I know what I'm talking about. Because people who have taken part in the arguments at the IPAC, strongly in support of party funding. When they were in opposition, they get into power and they are either mute or at best lukewarm. This is worrying. This is worrying. So maybe we should find a way to get our political parties to have a principled position on the funding of political parties, because I think it is very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Kujua Farijan. And he's continuing the conversation. But who can tell me? I mean, he says when the political parties are in opposition, they support it. But when they get into government, they do not. And reference has been made to two political parties. But the only parties that have been in government under the Fourth Republic is the NPP and NDC. So I can reasonably infer that he was making reference to these two parties. After all, we're an academic institution. That's what I am going to do. Why do you think that when they're in government, they do not, but when they're in opposition, they support it? Anybody wants to guess? Who wants to guess? Anybody wants to guess? Well, your guess may be as good as mine. Why do political parties in opposition support funding of political parties, but all of a sudden, when they have the power to do so, turn around and say, hold on a minute, the economy cannot support this? Well, maybe the economy cannot support it, maybe the economy can support it. Well, it's time for us to get into the first of two conversations. And the first panel conversation is about sources of political party funding, regulatory framework, compliance measures, and implications for governance. Time now to introduce our panelists. And we'll start with the Director of Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission of Ghana, Dr. Sebo Kweku. Let's welcome him with a round of applause. Please take a seat up here for me. He holds a PhD from the University of Cape Coast in economics. And the next person to join Dr. Sebo Kweku is the National Treasurer of the NPP, Dr. Charles Dramina. Let's welcome him with a round of applause. Next is the founder and flag bearer of the All People's Congress, APC, Hassan Ayariga. What was Dr. Hassan Ayariga doing? What was he doing? You know, when Dr. Farijan talked about the fact that at the time, only 4 political parties had 1%, you know what came to mind? In the last election, I think only 3 had up to 1%. So, yes, you may talk about, oh, there are a lot of political parties in Ghana. To get 1% of votes is not easy. How many votes did you get? What was the percentage? Come again? You know, years ago, I remember him talking about the fact that he was successful because he had beaten the CPP in the polls. I am not sure he will say that today. Anyway, that's just by the way. Final panelist for this conversation is the Executive Secretary of the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, Beauty Emefanate. Let's welcome her with a round of applause. Okay, so I think we can start the conversation now, and I'd like to start off with you, Dr. Hassan Ayariga, because you got a lot of cheers from the students. So, APC, tell us the sources of funding for your political party. How do you fund it?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, all protocol observed. I think we all know that political parties in Ghana mostly are funded by party members through dues, and then corporate institutions, personal savings, resources from donor friends abroad and within. The APC is relatively a young party, 16 years of age. Formed in 2016. We practically have been sponsoring our activities based from our party members and myself. I spend a lot of my resources in funding APC. In 2016, in order to form the party, I had to spend a whopping $6 million.
$6 million?
Yes. Because I put 175 party offices across Ghana. We bought a lot of pickups. We bought Land Cruisers. We had printed over 1 million t-shirts, and at that time, one t-shirt was $1. So you can imagine if you print 1 million t-shirts, you're already spending $1 million in printing the t-shirts. Then we bought a bus, a campaign bus, $500,000. We still have it. And that's a bus for my campaign. We did spend a lot of money. But moving forward after forming the party members across started contributing in their various communities and building the party from the grassroots, making sure that they were doing the polling station executive election by funding them themselves, doing the constituency election by funding them themselves, and then the regional election by funding them at the regional level. Then when we come to the national level, then I support in funding the resources for the National Congress like we did.
Just a way of clarification. So are you suggesting that at the grassroots level, your members use their dues in funding the activities?
Yes, they gather money, resources, and do their police station elections. The party doesn't have to send them money to do that. So among the police stations, they contribute money among themselves there, and then they make sure they are able to do the police station elections.
Great. So just a way of clarification also, because you talked at the beginning about how you found your party, you know, it's your money. We'll get to the donors bit, and then so when we talk about the donors, let's look at your party members. How many of them pay dues, and how much dues do you get that you use in running this party?
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't come to the central party accounts. We decentralize it at the various constituency level. So they all have party accounts at that level.
Okay.
So at the constituency, they have their own party accounts. Whatever is derived from within that constituency, they save it to their constituency accounts. Whatever comes at that regional level, they keep that money at regional level. So when they need more, for instance, motorbikes. In the last election, we bought a lot of motorbikes from the national level, and we sent it over there to the constituencies that needs motorbikes. Those that needs pickups, we're able to give at least each region one pickup to be able to campaign.
So when you say whatever comes, you're saying whatever comes at that level, they keep it at that level. That's what I want to understand. What is it that comes? How much comes on the average?
Sometimes it depends on what we are able to make from ourselves when we contribute from the various party leadership. And personally, I contribute a lot. I am the main contributor.
You are the
main financier of the party.
You say you have accounts at those levels. So do I get the impression that every constituency of your party has an account that they run in, that you use in running the party at that level?
Yes.
Okay. You've talked about other donors. I'm interested in the other donors. Who are they?
Friends, families, colleagues. I mean, they are friends who say, oh, Ayoga, I'm told you're doing your National Delegate Congress. We can give you, let's say, 2 motorbikes or 3 motorbikes, or I can print you 1,000 t-shirts, or I can do posters for you. And those are support coming from friends. Okay. They do that. There are friends who call and donate posters to us. There are friends who donate t-shirts to us, which if we are not getting from them, we will spend a lot of money to buy them.
And some of these friends include your friends from Germany?
Yes, include friends from Germany, friends from the US, friends from Ghana. I mean, friends from Saudi Arabia too as well.
Friends who are Germans?
Yeah, my friends who are my colleague, my business partners.
They are Germans?
Yeah, they are Germans, my business partners.
And they support you?
Yes, they support.
Dr. Sribokoku, is that acceptable? His friends who are Germans can support his party?
Thank you very much. I want to greet my chairman because I came to the commission through him in 1995. And he, in a way, made me stay in the commission. And my greetings to 3 of your lecturers here who were my classmates. Akwenyo, Kwedu, and I forgot their name. So, now, I mentioned Akwenyo, I mentioned Kwedu, Abdara. Greetings to all of you. First, I will want to respond direct and say that Honorable Ayaga is creating problem for himself.
Yes, so my question is that acceptable?
That's what I'm saying, that he's creating problem for himself. Because the law does not support that.
Oh, okay.
Foreigners cannot support political activities in the country. Yes, so if he's saying Ghanaians have no qualms, then we say you are friends who are business people who are Germans, I didn't hear him well.
He said,
I was telling you that friends, my friends.
but I asked you whether these business partners are Germans, and you said yes.
Yes, I have Ghanaian friends that are Germans.
No, but these, I said they are Germans.
Yes, they are Germans. Yes. Let me explain to you. The reason why I refused to become a German is because over the years I want to be a president of the Republic of Ghana. I have family members who are Germans and they are Ghanaians live in Germany, and they can support me.
And you have family members who are Saudi Arabians too?
Yes, of course.
Well, okay. My simple understanding is that if you are Ghanaian and you acquire another country's citizenship, if you don't apply for dual citizenship, you are no more a Ghanaian. And once the law says, if you are a foreigner, you cannot contribute. Once a Ghanaian loses his Ghanaian citizenship, he's no more Ghanaian.
Okay.
So maybe you didn't understand the question very well.
Well,
but I'm not here to give judgment because I'm not a judge.
but Dr. Sibokwaku, I'll come back to you because think about how the accounts are prepared. Honorable Ayaga is giving us an indication that his party has a lot of accounts. Honorable, don't worry, I'll get back to you. But let me get to Dr. Dramina, who's who's the treasurer of the MPP. I just want to understand, from the MPP point, how you're able to, fund your party's electioneering activities. Yes.
Thank you very much.
It's not coming clear.
Thank you. For us in the New Patriotic Party, we go with a bouquet of funding. We have a funding bouquet, and currently as we speak, the largest chunk of our revenue comes from membership dues. We have over 6 million people who vote for us, who are pro-NPP, but actively we have about 3.4 people who are active party members and who support the party in financial ways. And so membership dues, as we speak now, makes about 33% of our revenue, which is a large chunk. And when you look at the way our structure is, we also have external branches. We have about 27 active external branches. And when put together, the membership of these branches gets to a little over 9,000. They also, by our constitution, are supposed to pay membership dues. So the dues I made mention of earlier is dues generated within the country.
Okay.
And we have dues coming in from Ghanaians in the diaspora who are party members, also coming to us. Again, because of our sheer numbers, whenever we have internal elections, we get revenue from filing fees, nominations, and all of that. So it's a bouquet.
Okay.
We have successfully, as a party, moved away from depending on individuals or money bags to spreading it for everybody to chip in. And that is what is leading us, and we believe that is a very sustainable way of funding the party.
Let's break it down. So you've talked about your dues constituting some 33%. When it comes to filing fees, what percentage do these filing fees constitute? And then the remainder, where do you get it from?
So if you take it from that, you may not get the clearer picture. You should take it from the general point of view, in the sense that filing fee is part of the bouquet. Now, when you talk of the full bouquet, as we speak now, because we are actively promoting members to get on board in funding the party, that has taken the lead. Again, we have patrons who by law or per our constitution are people who give extra aside the dues they pay to support the party. Patrons also come in with a chunk of it. We also have the internally generated funds, as you mentioned, the nomination. So all these put together give us the revenue we need to move as a party.
Now, Dr. Dramina, because you talk about the fact that the dues constitute 33%, that gives me the impression that you know the percentage of the others. And that's what I want us to share. I mean, there may be young ones here who want to do, a project work in political party financing. And this will be their first port of call. They want to understand. So you've told us dues, 33%. I want to know, okay, when it comes to the patrons, if you have these figures, share them with us. When it comes to filing fees, when it comes to others who may contribute, so that we can then move the conversation from there and find out who are those who are contributing. Because I'm building a conversation in a certain way, and we'll end up with Dr. Sribo Kweku. So let's go.
I know certainly we are building a point, and I'm saying that for us, as a political party, we do our funding bouquet made up of membership dues, made up of donations from our patrons who are members of the party, made up of internally generated funds from nomination fees and all that. So the rest of these funds are spread. The over 60% is spread between the donation from the patrons, the internally generated funds, and the rest.
And the rest including businessmen.
If the businessman is a member of the party, a registered member of the party, and subscribes as a patron, why not?
Are you suggesting that only businessmen who are registered members of your party contribute to the party?
To the best of my knowledge, as the national treasurer of the party, that's what my books tell me.
Oh, okay. You know all those businessmen, and you know that they are members of your party.
That's what my books tell me. As you see, that is what the books say, in the sense that you may have somebody, or you may have an entity, a Ghanaian registered entity who may want to support. That entity by law is not prevented from supporting you. So the person can donate computers, or the person may run a facility, let's say a hotel. If you want to run a program there, they waive that off for you. That is also a form of support. But we are talking about active contributions, cash contributions, financial contributions. That comes from these things I've itemized above.
Okay, so there are businessmen who are members of your party. They support you.
They are Ghanaians. They are not foreigners.
Oh, but you've clarified that the students are actually...
they are not Germans.
But they are members of your party.
No, they are Ghanaians.
Hold on, when I get to, I'll get to PTM Fanate shortly. But Dr. Sribo Kweku, I'm sure you've been, I brought you in to talk about, Mr. Ayariga's issue, and you've also heard from Dr. Dramina. But that would lead me to a particular question. Now, the Electoral Commission, these parties are expected to present their accounts to you in a manner that you prescribe. Since this is the Faculty of Accounting and Finance, in what manner do you prescribe they submit those accounts?
Thank you very much. The Political Parties Act 574, what was passed in 2000, says that before they will file for an election, 21 days to an election, they should come out their income and expenditure account. Then any election that they take part, be it by-election or general election, 6 months after that election, they should present their audited expenditure and revenue to that effect. Then at the end of, after the course of every year, they should have they should also present their annual audited account for the year. That's not more than 6 months. Then the commission, previously, they will just bring their audited account based on what the auditor has prepared for them. Now we have given all of them, they are aware that the commission has developed detailed templates that they have to, complete, and the auditor go through, sign them, then they are submitted. So now we have template for them that they use to prepare their budget, so they have uniform form of presentation.
Okay, so the question is, that template, what is in there?
I also did some small accounting. I did it up to A level at that time, O level and A level. So what they talk about the activities that they are talking about, dues, like Mr. Jamna is saying. Who are those paying the dues? You summarize that. If it is contribution from Mr. Yerga's friends, the law is clear that if you are a foreigner, you cannot contribute. So to indicate who and who are doing the contribution. If you come from a company, the law says that that company should be at least 75% owned by Ghanaians.
Yes.
So all these things we have to indicate.
So you're saying that when they bring these accounts to you, they indicate all, I mean, apart from they indicate who these donors are.
That's what they are supposed to do. But
Do they do that?
We gave them the template, I think, 2020.
Okay.
And the truth is that I have not bothered to check what they have submitted, but that is not my area.
Oh, okay.
So I cannot speak to whether they are conforming to the template we have given.
So up until 2020, this was not the case.
No, 2020, that was they were presented the way they wanted. But now we have given them the common template that they use. But I have not checked on whether they have submitted it according to the template. But the law also says that when they submit the accounts and the commission is not satisfied, the commission can hire an auditor to go and audit them and also give them feedback. And we can sanction them for that. Let's bear in mind that in 2022, we used to have 28 political parties. It is because of some of these infractions that we have deregistered 17 of them. So technically, we have now 11 political parties. And the 11 of them, only MPP and DC are in good standing. The other 9, yes, the other 9. We published this in the papers. It was in the graphic. Please. So I don't want to. It should be a banter because you are aware that we have given them. We gave them 31st of December to put their houses in order. Other than that, they will follow the way the other 70 went.
So, now that you've talked about the fact that you are not in that department, but because you are representing the Electoral Commission, I'm sure the students here would want to know how you ensure that these political parties strictly adhere to these templates that you've given them. They comply as they're supposed to do. Do you have that information?
I think I've answered that when they submit, my area is the operational area for elections.
Yes, but I'm asking whether you know that that's being done.
I said that I have not checked on what they have submitted. Because normally, it is the accounting, we have the finance department. So that these things go to them. So as I've said, we have given them a moratorium. That moratorium has passed. We are going to do re-inspection, then we look at all these things before we take a decision on them. So don't worry, very soon, based on the moratorium we have given them, before we start the nomination, you hear from the electoral commission.
Don't worry, I would personally come and find that one out. I would follow up on that. Dr. Kweku, answer
the Freedom of Information Act also allows anybody here to write to the commission.
That is what I mean.
And when you write, we'll make them available.
Yes, so answer questions coming from you. Don't be distracted. Let me get to Beauty Fanati. And, for you, I just want to find out briefly. You've heard, from the two politicians here. You've heard from the Director of Electoral Services of the Electoral Commission. And you've listened to Dr. Farijan, when you listen to all of them, what do you see are the major corruption risks associated with political party financing in Ghana?
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. So, two things come up for me. It has to do with transparency and accountability. When you talk about transparency, from all that we are discussing, you could realize that there is a challenge with transparency of political party financing. If you look at the law, especially the act that established the political parties, Act 2005, 574, states clearly that as political parties, they are supposed, as what we are saying in terms of show us who they are receiving money from, where they are receiving the money from, and also assure us that they are not receiving money from non-Ghanaians. But the point is, as we have seen, let me just go to the Constitution. Article 55 clearly states that even the audited accounts should be published. But it's, we make laws and we are always regressing, and similar to what we made with the asset declaration law. So what the Constitution says, that it should be published by the political parties themselves, so that it has to be there for everybody to see. But when Mr. Kweku was talking, he said, as the Act specifies, you now have to request and pay a fee. That actually takes away the issue of transparency. And then in addition to that, we also recognize that, and that's one thing we are currently looking at, how people who are funding political parties, for instance, if you look at how much political parties or election campaign, Mr. Ayariga mentioned $6 million. But research recently done by CDD suggests that for presidential aspirants currently, that's 2022, they are spending almost $100 million. The question is, can we see that in the audited accounts the AC is talking about? So how is the political party managing that resources outside the audited accounts that is provided to the Electoral Commission? These are questions that we need to ask. Secondly, we also have to look at issues of accountability. How are political parties accounting for the resources? In the US, for instance, campaign funds are seen as public funds. And because they are public funds, they need to know how much did you even get as part of your campaign. How did you spend it? And if you spend it inappropriately, you are investigated and punished. And we've seen examples that I think somebody who used the money on his girlfriend and all that. But in this country, can you tell me that any of our political parties can tell us how they spent the money, and if the money was actually spent on the campaign, and how that account was given? So this presents a lot of gaps in terms of our transparency and accountability. In fact, that even presents a worry for some of us fighting corruption, that if we want to give political parties money and we have not been able to strengthen the issues of transparency and accountability around the current regime, then it will be difficult to add other funding. And you asked a question which I also want to quickly respond to. You asked, why is it that when they are in government, they are not, they don't really need funds, but when in the opposition, they talk about public funding? It's because of two things, and which, as the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition and our partners have been monitoring since 2012, it is about the abuse of incumbency. That is the truth. Incumbency is always abused, and this is done either coercively or corruptly. And this is something that we have also noticed, which also increases the cost of election, because then it takes away fair competition, and it also presents a challenge in terms of how much one can use to in terms of campaign for elections.
Great, Beauty, because you talked about transparency and accountability, before I get to Dr. Hassan Ayariga and the team, quickly tell us how these political parties, because you've talked about the fact that if these things are not dealt with, you can't really advocate the state funding of political parties. How do they ensure that?
Yeah, so we can do it in many ways, and as I already said, already we have templates, and I think Dr. Farijan alluded to some of the countries that are doing so well. Germany, Netherlands, even India and Kenya also has some templates that we can refer to. But what we need to do is to look at how, in terms of giving monies to political parties, it should be a public money. People should contribute publicly. If they're able to contribute publicly, it also gives the person who is contributing that kind of assurance that you are not going to be targeted, because one of the research that CDD did showed that some, especially for business people, the fear is that when they are approached by political parties for support and they don't do it, they are victimized when those parties come into power.
Hold on a minute. You're suggesting that businesses are sometimes approached by these political parties.
In fact, the study that CDD undertook in 2020 has stated that, and there were 12 business people who were interviewed, and they gave examples of how they have supported. And out of the 12, interestingly, when they were asked the question, do you think that we should do more open funding support so that as businesses you have that kind of freedom to publicly fund and you are not? 11 out of the 12 said yes, they supported that. Interestingly, one who is also a member of the political party said no, they prefer it this way. And you can understand why this is.
Help us understand.
Yes, so that why this is because if you open it up, it means that those who are funding, and I'm going to tie it to when the political parties come into power, the expectation of those is more like an investment. So people are investing to take a return. So if I now, you expose me or you put my name out there and then the government comes into power and I get a procurement contract, quickly we can do the math and say that, okay, so because you gave this amount of money, that is why you got this whole contract. So these can easily be linked, and that's why people who do not want the sunshine would prefer to do things in the dark.
Okay. In fact, do you support state funding on political parties?
In this current present state, I don't. But as Dr. Farijan has said, and which I have also agreed with, is that we are already supporting political parties in various forms, especially because of some of the, in terms of the media time that they are giving. Even when the Electoral Commission undertakes election, supervises election of the political party representative, they don't pay for it. Okay. It's free, so we incur that cost. So that's the cost is only when they are.
You don't pay for what?
We don't pay for. They don't pay for the election.
When you are filing with the Electoral Commission, they pay.
For the party executives.
No, hold on. Yes. Dr. Dama, you want to make a quick correction? Yes.
I wanted it to land, but this one I must quickly correct. It's because it's factually incorrect. We do pay for the services of the EC. In fact, some few days ago, I was raising concerns about the increasing cost of getting the EC to supervise our elections, and that of the police as well. We pay to the police, we pay to the EC, and it is becoming alarming.
You say increasing cost?
Yes. Comparatively, when you compare what the EC used to charge.
Okay, do the comparison.
It's becoming.
What were they charging previously?
For different elections, different processes, so you can't have one figure, but in percentage-wise, it's increased over 20% over the period, and it's going forward. It's getting higher and higher, and so it cannot be said that it is free. Again, another quick one: the issue about people not wanting their businesses to be out there. I think the figure she put out herself confirmed the fact that people are very open. If out of 12 companies who are supporting, 11 are willing to have their names out there, and just one is saying, I don't want my name published, it tells of a story where majority are willing to be transparent.
Great. Now that you have the microphone,
I need to quickly add that the 11 are party businesses. So these are businesses that were approached by the party to give money. But the financiers who are, as he rightly pointed out, that they have businesses who are party financiers. I believe that one may represent that interest, that they don't want that kind of sunshine.
Well, we have another conversation coming up, so I need to wrap this one up quickly. Dr. Swoboku, don't worry, I'll give you the final word, so don't worry. I'll give you the final one, because you have a lot of questions to answer about your charges also. You see, that in itself is a problem. Hassan Ayariga, you wanted to make a point about the issues of transparency and accountability. How do you ensure that there's transparency and accountability in your financial management and reporting?
First of all, I want to correct Dr. Schreiber.
Please go ahead.
You know, when he said that there are two political parties in good standing, I disagree.
He says you are aware that your party...
I'm very much aware that even when the MPP and the NDC do not comply with the acts, the Electoral Commission is unable to do anything about that.
You have an authority that they don't comply.
Yes. So in 2016, they wanted to crack the whip on political parties' offices. The APC had almost 215 offices. When they did the checking, the NDC and the MPP could not comply with those offices. They did not crack the whip.
The NDC didn't have offices.
They do not have the power and the authority to disqualify NDC or MPP.
Hold on a minute.
Do that.
Hold on a minute.
So they will continue.
Hold on a minute.
No, I'm not holding on. Hold on.
I am in charge here. Hassan Ayariga, I am the one in charge. So when I say you hold on, you hold on. Thank you for understanding. I see Dr. Kojo Afarijan raising his hand. And once Dr. Afarijan raises a hand, we must definitely get a microphone to him. So please get a microphone to Dr. Afarijan. I want to hear from him quickly. That's why we have to hold on. Yes, Hassan Ayariga. Good, you understood.
Thank you very much. I just want to give friendly advice to the Electoral Commission. You see, this matter of qualification, there was a time, yes, Dr. Silva will remember, there was a time when we did an audit of the political parties. And we found that if you take it strictly, not even one party qualified.
Thank you.
No. You see, because of that, we couldn't put in crudely kill anybody because they don't do a partial enforcement of the law. So if you're going to do it, make sure that all of them qualify. You see, you cannot say, it says offices in all the districts, no, 2/3 of the districts. You cannot say that it has offices in half of the districts. Therefore, it's all right, and somebody doesn't have any at all. It's either you fulfill it or you don't.
Okay.
So please, friendly advice, make sure that they strictly comply. If they don't comply, it means that we're killing all the parties, and maybe you can't do that, then you leave them.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farijan. Dr. Silva, you want to make a point again?
Yes, please.
Yes, Hassan Ayariga wants to finish his point. Let him finish his point.
I'm not finished. So, the issue of political financing, your earlier question on whether parties have power when they are in the opposition.
My current question is the transparency and accountability.
Okay, transparency and accountability. Let's be sincere. We in the minority parties, we have volunteers who help us in building our party. When you see some of the party offices we have, it's volunteers who have voluntarily given us those party offices. They do not actually give us physical cash for us to be able to run our campaign. Now, talking about NDC and MPP, they've been in government. And when we are talking about political financing, they are able to use government resources to finance their political activities. And there's no accountability and transparency. You will see a constituency, one constituency, that they spend so much money that the whole political party can spend, the minority parties. And nobody bothers to ask them, how do you get all these monies? Buying vehicles, buying motorbikes, and donating to constituency, what do you call it, members to vote. And you don't think that we need to account for that when they are in power? If I do it and I'm not in power, nobody comes after me. But if you are in power and you are spending money to buy cars to donate to constituency executive to vote, come on. When we do not have water, we do not have electricity, and you think that we should finance political parties with government resources. I don't believe in government financing political parties.
You don't believe in that?
No, I say no. We don't have that money. Government do not have.
But you have only said that government uses state funds.
Yes, of
so
course.
why don't we put in place a mechanism where your political party can also get?
If you want to put a mechanism for political parties to be financed, there's a mechanism in which you can do it. There are so many procedures and logistics we can do. One, we can give all of them equal platform on TV, radio, to be able to campaign. Two, we can look at the issue of filing fees. Like the Electoral Commission is saying, 100,000, 10,000 Ghana for parliamentary candidates. How many of our young boys who want to be parliamentarian can save 10,000 Ghana cedis? They cannot. So these are the things we can look. We can look at the issue of campaign. Okay, let's say that, all right, every party gets, let's say, 20 vehicles to be able to campaign. These are the things we can do logistically. But to say we want to give them cash or give them some kind of leverage, I don't believe in that.
Okay.
Because, you see, if you begin to finance political parties, the next time Dr. Shoba sits here, you have a long list from up down.
That's what they talk about the criteria, and they said
people will be forming just political parties to get that access.
Well, they talk about the criteria. You should be able to
forget about the criteria. They will do everything to get it.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
They will do, and he can attest to that. We will have a voter list that we cannot vote. Like in Nigeria, over 225 political parties. How are you going to finance that?
Well, it says at the time, Dr. Fajan said if you don't make 1%, you don't qualify. And in that discussion, only 4 political parties.
We cannot start by saying that if you don't have 1%, you will not be qualified. Then many political parties will not get it because those in power will use the money of government to build their parties and qualify. We want equal access. If we are giving political parties equal opportunity and equal access, I think that would be the best way to go.
Let me get to Dr. Jamina. We are wrapping up. Dr. Sibokwa would have the final point. How do you ensure transparency and accountability in financial management and reporting?
Thank you very much. Before proceeding with that, I just want to clarify something quickly. As at 2008, the New Patriotic Party had functional offices in all constituencies in Ghana. So it cannot be true, as Mr. Ayarigia said, that in 2016, some political parties, including the NPP, could not fulfill the requirement of having offices across the nation. This is a fact I want to clarify. Now, going on to the transparency and accountability, we've made lots of strides in that regard. As a political party, we've ensured that all our constituencies have bank accounts. So whenever we need to transfer funds to party structures in the various constituencies, we don't give it to people who then go and say, I was robbed or this or that. We do electronic transfers. And so you have all the accounts. Again, as an added layer, we require all constituencies to send us monthly returns on the funds we send to them. What they use the funds for, whether for funeral donations, outreaches and all that. In addition to that, when it comes to the revenue mobilization, we have a very centralized platform that is accessible to all with the appropriate clearance. So it's at the click of a button, you are able to see all funds that are coming in, all funds that have gone out and all that. These put together help us to render accounts to our people at the annual conferences, at the constituency levels, at the regional levels, and at the national levels, and again to the Electoral Commission. So when it comes to financial management and transparency and accountability, I would say that MPP is a trailblazer in this field, because continuously we are making innovations to ensure that there is optimum transparency and accountability in the party.
Thank you very much. Dr. Sribokwaku, you want to address the concerns? Can I ask you a very simple question? And we're done for this panel. Yes. So you want to address the point that Dr. Kujafarijan made? And
yes, please. Just one question. I have with me the findings of our inspection in 2022. I wouldn't want to go into details but I want to put on record, and anybody who wants to cross-check can come to my office and verify. We had 11 of the parties which are in existence now. All of them have national offices. You know, only one. Then, with respect to regional offices, only MPP and NDC had 16 each, followed by CPP with 9, PPP 9, GCPP 8, APC 8, PNC 7, LPG 5, GUM 4, NDP 3, GSP 1. And we based our decision on the national and regional offices.
Okay.
So those who went out, either they didn't have a national office at all, or they didn't have even one regional office.
Okay.
So the rest who had that, but they didn't have up to the number, we said that we have given them up to December to do that. Mr. Yarika, if I were to go to the district offices, you wouldn't want it, so I wouldn't go there.
No, we are interested. We are interested.
Yes. So with district offices.
No, let me say that.
Please let me
correct Dr. Hold on.
And I want
to. Yes. Please, let's do it this way. We want to hear everybody. And I would give you a chance if you want to react to anything. Hold on 1 minute. Dr. Sribokwaku, go ahead and make your point.
Now, with the district offices, you needed at least 174. That calculates the 270, 2/3 of the 261.
261, yeah.
So you need then at least 174.
No, you want 87.
No. Okay, whatever. Please, I'm here. I want to put my reputation and my job on the line. NDC had 261, and we have 261 administrative districts. So a district may have double constituencies, but we are talking of one district. So NDC had 261. So they have offices across the country, all the districts. MPP, the same. CPP, 64. PPP, 27. GCPP, 13. APC, 10. PNC, 38. LPG, 8. GUM, 60. NDP, 2. GSP, 1.
Okay.
So what I said was that if you didn't have a national office at all, or at least one regional office, party was still registered. But we did not take this into consideration. But we gave them, and these things were discussed at IPAC meeting.
Great.
So I'm surprised that somebody is contesting.
Dr. Sribokwaku, then my final question to you will be: do you support state funding of political parties?
As Dr. Afadian said, yes, with a lot of caveats.
Okay, what are these caveats?
And at least the basic thing that before you will be given resources, you should have contested elections before.
Okay.
Then you have a threshold that you should get. I'm saying so in the sense that as I speak here, we have almost 25 new applications on our table. New, not those who are existing. And they are increasing on a daily basis. Personally, I see it is becoming more business than serving the country.
Okay. On that note, thank you, all of you. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much, Dr. Nefanache, Dr. Shebo Kweku, Dr. Charles Damina. Mr. Asanayaga, the time is just not our friend. Thanks to all of you. So we'll move into the next conversation, which is on promoting transparency, financing options, and choice of political candidates and CSOs. And I'm told that there's a representative of the president of the National Union of Ghana Students, NUS, here. He has his representative here, so if you are the one, please join us and assume your seat. If you are representing the president of NUS, please join us. Thank you very much. Saeed, right? Great, Saeed. Then we're also joined by the executive secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association, who's seeking to be the presidential candidate of the People's National Convention, Samson Asaki Awingobit. And the final person to join us is the Director of Corporate Affairs of the NDC and former Deputy General Secretary, Dr. Peter Buama Otokuno. And let me just announce to all the students that I am told that your lecturers have been spoken to, so you don't have a problem. And there will also be some refreshment for you. So it is in your interest, now that you are here, to remain here. But in case you still want to depart, well, you can go. I'm sure there are many who say the fewer, the merrier. Gentlemen, take your microphones, and then we get into the conversation. And I'd like to start off with you. Peter Buama Otokuno, Dr. Otokuno, because we've been talking about transparency and financing options. How do you think political parties can explore, financing options and also enhance transparency in the usage of these funds?
Well, first of all, let me underscore the point that a registered political party is like a registered public business. And every member of the party is a key stakeholder who has interest in how the affairs of the party are conducted. And so, just as was earlier intimated, like the NDC, our sources of funding includes, and most importantly, includes the dues paid by our members. I recall from 2007, we have had to pay a dues of 1 cedis over a period. Until 2022, when the party people themselves suggested that no, the 1 cedi was not enough to fund the party, and they wanted to pay 2 cedis. And what we do in our party is that every money that we accrue, we take accounting very serious, because as part of our principles that underpins the party is probity and accountability. And so we take the accountability of our party funds very seriously. And because of that, all the dues that we collect, which are disaggregated based on constituency basis, which are expended, our treasurers from the various constituencies are enjoined quarterly to prepare financial statements. And their financial statements that they prepare are presented at the Constituency Executive Committee meeting. The Constituency Executive Committee meeting is a group that is represented by almost about 35 members. And so we believe that that engagement allows for internal transparency in our expenditure, in our accounting. And it runs through from there to the region to the national. I'm sure if Dr. Sripo was even going through our compliance in terms of audit reports and all that, he will tell you that we are always the first to submit our audit reports, because we take our accountants, he can confirm that. At least for the past 6-7 years, we have been always the first to submit. And what we have done with that is that
we have made sure that the officers we put in office at the various levels have some level of qualification, some professional qualification in accounting, so that they can do basic accounting work for us. But you would realize that after 2014, we don't elect national treasurer. After 2014, we started appointing national treasurer. And the reason why we did that was that we wanted professional accountants who would take care of our books and make sure that everything is intact. And this is the process we use in working on our audit reports. When the national treasurer and his team of accountants and some external auditors that we appoint have gone through the books and have audited all the books, we call functional executive committee meeting, which is a proxy for our national executive committee meeting. And we'll do a thorough presentation of the books, everything, concerns will be raised, thorough discussions will be made, then inputs are made before it goes to NEC. So before our audit report even gets to the EC, it has been discussed at NEC and approved.
Okay.
And we believe that also helps because then it enhances the internal transparency where all the party members and leaders become aware of exactly what goes on. If you read the political parties law, the 574 of 2000, it tells you, among other things, that the audit reports of the political parties or the financial statements must be published. And we believe that in those meetings and those discussions where we get those approval, it constitutes enough publication for the stakeholders to, as it were, have a fair view of what their monies are being used for, from the basis to the top. And so I think transparency is very key. But above all other things, we should be careful when we talk about political party financing transparency. Because in the last few years, you have seen that a lot of businesses have suffered in Ghana, particularly in the financial sector. Some banks have been collapsed, without any basis, purely because there may be some perceived, perception that they may be supporting some political parties, some of which are also political players. For example, our very good old Dr. Pabna Dufour, who is a known NDC member. And so when you look at all these things, then it raises a cautious, point that, if we are going to do this level of transparency, where sponsors of political parties must be made known publicly, then we risk the case where we may have a lot of businesses suffering. Because beyond the names of the big banks that you know, there are private businesses, some are startups that have collapsed purely because they might have had some perceived association with some political party. So we may have to look at it cautiously. But again, when you look at advanced economies like the UK, they have a system that forces and ties the hands of the political elite from, taking.
Let me just.
So now that your mic is not coming, if I may finish my point. Yes. Okay. So the systems are such that the government, the political elite, they are tied in a way that you cannot be vindictive. You cannot take your vindictive spleen on people who have supported other political parties. Okay. Just recently there was a scandal in the UK. So there was this donor who donated some money to the Conservative Party, and he's a contractor. And by law in the UK, when you have a business and you need a certain amount of the business value should be of a certain amount, and you can't donate beyond some threshold. And it came up that he has donated beyond some threshold, and even he is not a British citizen. It is the wife that is a British citizen, and it has become a huge scandal. So in those economies, they take political funding very serious. Okay. And they have put measures in place such that even as the monies move in, it is clearly monitored. When the scandal broke, they had to return the money. Conservative Party had to return the money to the individual. And as we speak, the matter is still pending, investigation.
So let me just find out from you. So, since you make that point, you've talked about publishing, and you've said because of the vindictive nature of our system, that would be a problem. However, in your reporting to the Electoral Commission, do you indicate these persons and how much they gave to you, to the Electoral Commission.
Okay, so a little anecdote to what Dr. Srebo said earlier about this framework for reporting. The audited reports that we send to the Electoral Commission are not detailed, such that if Winston Amwa donates 100 Ghana to the NDC, your name will be there that you donated 100 cedis. Because the audited accounts looks at the aggregates. So aggregates of receipts, income that we have made. Maybe we'll grade them into dues, we'll grade them to special donations. And you must also must have been aware that in the past years, we have brought together some donor systems that we run in the party. We have prestige card for our members, we have gold card, we have silver card. This year we have even upgraded it. We have the good governance, prestige, good governance, platinum, and so on. And people are paying, and these are registered members, and the records is available. But what the auditors do is that they look at the details of the amounts and the places they are coming from. Then they will make their determination. But what goes to Dr. Srebo and the EC does not come with those details. But it is the work of the auditors, and that is why they have to stamp that work. They stamp it on their integrity, you understand, as auditors, that they have gone through the books and they have verified all the sources of the funding. And so you will not get the details Winston paying 100 Ghana, just as you may want to do this year because of the current economic situation to help us change.
Okay, so so Dr. Srebo Kwakweli was talking about the template. Don't worry, I will find out the template later on, and we'll look at everything. But let me get to you, you know, Samson Awingobit, because you want to be the presidential candidate of the People's National Convention. You were unsuccessful the last time. You want to do it again. How are you raising those funds? Who are those supporting you? And since we're talking about transparency and accountability, you want to share with us how you're doing that?
Thank you very much. I don't know if my mic. Okay.
Use Otogonosma, yes.
Thank you very much, Winston. And good evening to all of us. Yes, as you said, all the political parties, and of course, I'm sure my very good friend Dr. China will tell you that raising funds to finance political party, it's not an easy job. It requires you have to go an extra mile. And so when they come, just like my friend Dr. Otokono also tried to explain here, when they come to we the minority parties, it is a serious challenge. And so if you ask us today or tomorrow that do we support political finance, we will say yes. However, looking at the current economic indicators, and at the point that we are discussing political financing for political parties, at this point in time, I would say we are at the injury time. Maybe we are just establishing the debate now, so that after 2024 election, then we will strongly go into it to say, is there a need for political financing and transparency and accountability to political parties in Ghana? Then I would say yes. Maybe
so, Mr. Awingobit,
now I'm coming to you. As is rightly said, I have been an advocate for several years in this country, on the maritime trade. So in 2020, when I declared my intention to contest, and you said I went and lost, I didn't lose badly anyway. I
said you were unsuccessful.
Yes, 3 flag bearers candidates. You became number 2, second person.
But you were unsuccessful.
Yes, I must say that raising funds to do campaign, it's not easy. It wasn't easy. So first and foremost, I used my own savings. Then of course, the work that I've been doing for several years, I have sisters who are into the industry. But you can talk to the business, not foreigners, because I know in the 1982 Constitution it's frowned that you cannot go to foreigners or companies that are not, even if it's a company existing within here, and 70% or 75% is not owned by Ghanaian, you cannot go there to look for this. So I also had friends within the business community that I went to them, Ghanaians, to ask for support. And those who also believe that there was a need for a business person to also lead this country, also believed in Awingobit, and the spirit of Awingobit supported me in. But I can tell you, it's not easy. Even sometimes you go to your own brother and say, look, I know the path we are going is good, but I don't have the money. So I think going forward, as Dr. Shibo Kweku gave the statistics, you realize that why is that PNC couldn't have offices all over the 16 regions? Why is that PNC couldn't have the offices all over the regional offices? It's as a result of our internal funding. We are not enough. We are not many. PNC, so we look forward for the young graduates who will be coming out from our university to say that PNC is a transparent government. PNC will be a transparent political party. If you join PNC, your one city will be accounted and you will have a say. As we speak, going forward, if that is not taken, if this will not support political financing in this country, it means that we will have people who have a good intention for this country, but it's as a result of they do not have funds to go out there and propagate their activities, their message well to the voter, to the Ghanaian voters. At the end of the day, we will continue voting for people who do not even understand what the ordinary Ghanaian need. Then, with your brilliance and your accumulative knowledge, you will end up not being even elected as assemblyman, let alone an MP, or we are talking about to occupy the higher office as the president of the organ. Meaning, you are the best person. Meanwhile, you will be the best person to steer the affairs of this country. So, going forward, after 2024 election, I think we need to reactivate this crusade of state financing political parties in this country with transparency and accountability.
Mr. Winkobet, how much do you intend to spend in your campaign?
Okay, now that I've declared, on the day I declared alone, when I brought media to declare, we spent 10,000 Ghana cedis.
You spent 10,000 Ghana cedis on the day that you declared.
That's how tough it is. You have to go through, just media. You have to go through the 16 region before we go to primaries. So even if you have to spend, if it's national level, spend 10,000, you will move with your convoy. At least 3-4 people will follow you. Two or one pickup on Plaza, my Land Cruiser will go. Our hotel bills. At least you can say 5,000 times 60. That would be huge money.
You spend 5,000 with your Land Cruiser and 3 other cars and hotel bills.
Because you have to go 5,000 times 60. You have to go through 16 regions. Yes,
yeah, but I'm suggesting to you that if you are to fill your Land Cruiser with 3 other vehicles,
yes,
I
think we need to pick up one or two.
Yes, but your Land Cruiser alone,
yes,
will take fuel.
Yes.
That fuel will take about 2,000 to 3,000. Your hotel bills alone will be more than that.
We will cut our code according to what we have.
But
we have to.
Okay.
We cannot
so
go and sleep.
So
I cannot afford to go to Kumasi and go and sleep at Lancaster, what the hotel name. So I will look for a hotel that would I can spend like maybe 300 Ghana cedis. And then it's true.
Mr. Winkobet, what's your budget for this presidential primary election? What's your budget?
My budget?
Yes, what's your budget?
For
the PNC primary.
I look forward with my friends. I took on here and then February here. If I get 1 million, I can go for a presidential candidate primaries. And we need to raise
1 million.
Friends. 1 million will be. 1 million will be.
You need 1 million.
It's a political party.
And we
will knock your doors. We will knock your doors. That is how you raise funds to support ourselves. Okay. We have friends. I can go to my brother and I say, my brother, I'm going for this region. This is my budget. Maybe it's 3,000 or it's 10,000 or it's 20,000. Support me. You will support me. Okay. If I go to Afari, Fred or here, if I go to Otokunu, they will support me to go.
Okay.
Because they have the privilege to be in government. They have to raise it. They have to help promote democratic dispensation.
Are you suggesting that they fed on the largesse of the state and hence must contribute?
They do, of course. They have been in government.
That's what you're suggesting.
They have all been in government, and at least they have something better than we.
So, no, but the question is that are you suggesting that having been in government, they've taken from the state and hence must support your campaign?
No. I do not cut them taking something from the state, but I think they have worked. There have been appointments. They have appointees in government who are contributing to support their political parties, and we are friends. It is a public known that if we are going for primaries, we go to these political parties and they support us.
You go to political parties?
We go there, we are friends. We are political friends.
As a political party seeking to contest against them?
Of course, we are not enemies.
Oh, okay.
We are not enemies.
We can approach them that we are going for our Congress, National Congress. They will support us.
They support you even for your national
So
congress.
that if tomorrow there's a second round, they also come to us. It has happened before. In 2000, there was a second round in this country. Minority political parties supported the party.
Are we going? Hold
In
your
2008,
fire.
there was a second round in this country. NDC ran to PNC, they needed our support.
Hold your fire. Hold your fire. I'll get back to you. Our time is also not our friend. So I need to get to Saeed, who is representing the president of the National Union of Ghana Students, a group that all of us are proud of. So let me find out from you, students, how you intend to advocate for transparency in political party financing, particularly in issues which are also relevant to you as young voters.
Thank you very much. The National Union of Ghana Students remains elated that as and when such conversations pops up, organizations also bear in mind that as the largest youth front shedding over 12.5 million Ghanaian students, we are represented to also come and deliberate and talk about the position of students and the youth in the country. To begin with, talk of the accountability and transparency in political party financing. We believe that as students, or as student politicians in some way, we also benefit under the same umbrella that these senior politicians at the partisan level are benefiting. Because ideally, we are the prodigies of these same political actors at the national level. And during our campaigns, we also fall on them for certain kinds of funding.
You fall on the politicians?
A lot of times. The students here can bet that fact.
Oh, okay. They fund your campaign?
Yes, that's become a thing of them today. That there's a much political infiltration that we are their prodigies.
And you're okay with that?
We wouldn't be okay, but I mean, it has become the norm.
If you go to them, then it means you're okay with that?
I mean, we are not necessarily going to them. They are prodigies of these politicians from home.
Which you engage? Which you engage? These persons you engage them?
I'm speaking as a representative
of the
National. Sure. So these prodigies of these politicians benefit one way or the other from these politicians. So who are you to question the source of these funds when you are in dire need of these particular funds? Political parties have certain groups that are stimulated ideally to fund campaigns of their prodigies in different sectors. And it becomes difficult sitting on the youth front to question the transparency and accountability of these political parties. However, we believe that there's a lot of things that is not being said. That's Dr. Jamina has spoken about the political party dues. Dr. Tukono has also mentioned about the political party dues. You and I will bear witness that we see numerous of Mahindras around, we see numerous of Nissan Pathfinders, we see a lot of Land Cruisers, we see a lot of vans around. If we are to probe into the matters and consider the dues, previously the 1 cedi dues being taken by the NDC, when you probe into the matters and you do your calculation, you cannot arrive to the point that these Mahindras will amount into millions of cedis. These dues will amount into millions of cedis to patronize these Nissan Pathfinders and Mahindras. Just a couple of weeks ago, Honorable Hassan Ayaga was on hot issues. He mentioned that any serious political party that is in the business of winning the election this year should invest close to $50 to $100 million in the elections. Just as Madam said, CDD, per their own research, also established that any serious political party that wants to...
That was actually before the 2020 elections. The $100 million CDD code. Actually, hold on. I've had that conversation with Kojo Asante. It's actually before the 2020 elections. So today, anyway, your guess may be as good as mine.
Dr. Honorable Hassan Ayaga's position that $50 to $100 million should be okay. Just as the CDD has also spelled out, you need about $100 million if you're a serious political party to win power. If we are going to be honest with ourselves, these dues that are coming from the grassroots to the national level, are they close to $100 million?
Okay. Great question. And earlier I asked Dr. Dramina, the percentage and the amount. He was talking about bouquet, and he wasn't going. So, Otokuno, I'm going to go further. I didn't want to ask you this question, but now that the young Saeed has ended on that note, the dues that you collect, how much is it?
So, Winston, before I deal with that, let me make a point that, it is very interesting when my colleague mentioned that political parties infiltrate into the youth front, the student front. In fact, it's been something that as a student leader, when I was in school, I fought strongly against. And it is true. It has become the order of the day. And that is why the advocacy from the student front is dead. Now the student front is dead. Yeah. Because before they even decide to become student leaders, they are looking for which politician they can raise money from. And the whole thing about political party financing, well, it's political financing, not political party financing. And as you may be aware, politics is not only about the political parties. It also involves how student leaders are funded. And I think it's something that we must look at comprehensively. And if we are even talking about transparency, just as he said, the student dues, how much is it? But the way you use the student dues, are you transparent enough? Moving the campaign, the monies you spend in SRC elections, how do you get those monies? And I know SRC elections where huge amounts of money are spent. And so it's a big problem. But let's move forward to the political parties.
Yes, and the dues.
Now, bear in mind that it is not only dues that funds any political party. And the dues are standard leverage that we set for all members. But there are other members who are well-to-do, who can pay beyond the dues.
So what percentage comes from the dues?
I do not have those percentages. Now, those who are well-to-do, who are able to donate more, they donate more. But we have a membership, database of over 4 million. And the dues, 2 cedis is every month. So all things be equal. If our members are in good standing, and you see there are strategies we use to make sure that our members are in good standing. In the NDC, our elections at all levels involves every single member up to the branch. So at the branch level where we elect branch executives, all members of the party vote. And before you are qualified to vote, you must be in good standing, which means that you must have paid all your dues. And that means that with all the over 4 million people, if everybody is paying their dues every month, that is a lot of money. Okay. And so the issue about, how do you get the monies and all those things, well, it is true that some political parties, sometimes you get individuals who come and fund you with certain illegal sources of money. You understand? Okay. And that is one area that perhaps, if we are talking about transparency and compliance with the law, we should be looking at. Because you have the case where you need money to do the campaign, and some donor is getting sources from, drug, peddling, and he brings the money in. It becomes a problem. Because, first of all, you as a political party may not know that he's a drug peddler. You understand? And so those are areas that I think if we are looking at political party financing, we should expand beyond. Because some funds are moving into, terrorism, sources coming into party, funding, some from drug business coming into political party funding and all that. And these are gray areas that we don't talk about. And so perhaps we should be talking about those ones and see how we don't get people to fund political parties with illicit money, such that you don't bring governments who would become puppets of those illicit sources. And so if we are able to do that, I think that would be very good for us. But finally,
whether you support state funding of political parties?
Well, I mean, it would be totally out of place and heavily insensitive for anybody to support political party funding at this time, looking at the state of our economy. An economy that is not able to pay its debts, an economy that is bankrupt, an economy that, we can't have electricity, we can't have water, food is expensive.
If I don't stop you, start campaigning.
Listen, I'm not campaigning. I'm making a point why we in the NDC cannot support political party funding. So you may want to let me make that point very strongly. And it is the same principle that caused the NDC to stand against the construction of the National Cathedral. Look at the amount of money that has gone into the National Cathedral. And so we are saying that there are real issues, there are germane issues. Look at free SHS, what has happened to it? People go to school and they are not able to get food to eat. For those who are able to get the food, no meat. if you don't get the
Peter Otokono.
no, wait a
On that
I
note,
am justifying why you can't support.
You've made a point. You've made a point. You've given reasons.
So you are not interested in the reason why we can't support.
You have given the reasons. You said the economy can't support it. So I'm sure everybody would then begin to do their own analysis. Thank you very much.
You will defend Taya.
Thank you very much, my friend Peter Otokono, who's Director of Corporate Affairs of the NDC. Thank you. Samson Asaki Awingobit, thank you very much. Saeed. That will bring us to the end of the second panel discussion. Let's give a round of applause. Please take the podium. We're about to wrap it all up. Thank you very much, guys.
First of all, I would like to thank all of you for being here, and the patience you've exhibited throughout the dialogue. My apologies go to Tokuno. I think I addressed you, Mr. instead of Doctor. I hope I'm forgiven. I would like to, Mr. Dean, I'd like to suggest to you that the speaking notes of Dr. Afarijan is kept at your library. Very often, we don't take account of the history of some of these milestones, and they just get lost. And if you can actually get him, not just the speaking notes, but get him the person to start documenting certain things for you. I don't think there's anybody in this country who has the kind of knowledge that he has within our electoral systems, and you need that for the students. Having said that, I'd like to thank also the participants. I was hoping that it would be a national discourse, but Dr. Bruno, in his brilliance, turned this whole thing into a political issue. The issue of transparency and accountability in political finance is one that is a serious matter that should be taken quite seriously. And if the faculty has taken it up, I think you should look at the work that has been done by the EC up to this point and how you can champion it. The mood in this country at the moment, not just the economy, but just generally, the mood of Ghanaians will not support the state funding of political parties because the political class is seen as parasites on the entire system. It doesn't matter where you're coming from, what your background is, whether you had money before you go into politics or not. You are just deemed to be a thief if you are in politics. You have your own money that you've earned legitimately and you want to spend it because you're a public officer. You are even instructed by your own conscience not to spend it the way you want to spend it. And these are matters that let's be looked at, devoid of politics, and let's question it. Because sitting back and listening to them, the Winston's questions and some of the answers you get the impression that every little peso that is spent within the political space is being spent by the political parties. No. The individuals who are in the party as candidates, they spend far more money than the party itself. The party sometimes has a problem even paying electricity bills, water bills. I mean, I'm for MPP, I'm not here because of MPP, but let me just say this. When I was in the office of national chairman, there was a time that our office was 5'8", because we were owing somebody some 30,000 cedis or didn't have money, and they came to lock up the office. Yet the individuals within the party had more than that. And so this is Mr. Dean, I think this is a subject that it's very important to this country, because if we want, especially the student, the youth, to take a course different from what we've been used to, and take this country to the real level that it should be, there ought to be transparency, there ought to be accountability, there ought to be decency and discipline within the political discourse. And if we cannot inculcate that spirit in them through such lectures and dialogues, and we just scratch the surface and go away, I think a little education is more dangerous than no education at all. Then we might not have even touched it. So I would encourage the faculty to find another time, another means of having deeper conversation into this matter. And perhaps maybe not this year or next year, but perhaps the next electoral season, you just might be able to convince Ghanaians that they should take away the monetization from our politics by way of the state stepping into the arena to fund it and describing the parameters within which everybody should operate. That, to me, would be the answer. But I encourage you and I salute you for this bold effort. I think it's not easy to get politicians to come and sit here attempting to watch their dirty livings in public, but we managed to get all of them to come. I thank you very much. And for those of you, especially the students, it should not be just a mere attendance, but I think you should go beyond what you've seen this afternoon and question why certain things are done. I thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fedawari. And I'm told that you don't have to go because the faculty has a citation they want to award you. So the Vice Dean of the Faculty of Accounting and Finance, Dr. Edward Atabutri, will come. And this is in appreciation of your outstanding leadership and your guidance and unwavering dedication as chairman for this event. They say your vision has inspired us all. So the Vice Dean will present this to Mr. Fred Owari. The next person is, don't go yet, Vice Dean. I need you to do a few things for me. Thank you very much, Mr. Fred Owari. You can have your seat. But the next person is Dr. Kojo Afarijan, and the faculty is very grateful to you. Okay, so the next person, the department is, the faculty is grateful to you, Dr. Charles Dramina, NPP National Treasurer. Beauty Emefanate. Dr. Sribo Kweku, Director of Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission. We're grateful. And the founder of the All People's Congress, Dr. Hassan Ayariga. Okay, Vice Dean, thank you very much. We would now invite Dr. Abdel Abdul Mumuni to also present the next. You know, if Dr. Hassan Ayariga has all the fans in this room, if only they will translate into votes. And the next person to be awarded is Samson Asaki Awingobit. Peter Otokuno will take one for Johnson Asili Katia. I am told this is one for me, so I'll keep it. No, don't go yet, Dr. Mumuni. Kojo Asante is not here. We'll keep his also for him. Is that all? I think the ones that you want us to. Okay. I think that. Okay. Is there a CDD rep here? Is there a CDD rep here? Okay, so you can pick this one for Dr. Kojo Asante. And the representative of NUC's president, please pick it for him. Okay. I think we're done. On that note, we're grateful to the chairman, Fred Owai, who is senior advisor to the vice president and the campaign vice chairman of the NPP. Folks, we're glad that you made time to join us this afternoon. To all the students who made time to be here, I would have loved it if you were able to ask a few questions, but time was definitely not our friend. My name is Winston Amoa. You have a lovely day and a lovely weekend.